Warm welcome to each and every one of you to session 2 of the day, the innovation deficit, why R&D deserves a bigger seat at the table. This is a high-level, cross-functional conversation that brings together R&D heads, innovation leads, and business decision makers to examine one crucial question. Why is the function that powers innovation often the one that's least funded and least heard? Let's welcome our moderator for this session, Swarn Singh, Director R&D South Asia, Kellanova. Can we have a huge round of applause for him, please? A bigger round of applause. Come on, give it up for him, please. Thank you for being here with us. Joining him, we have our esteemed panelist, Dr. Reena Bibals, Vice President, R&D, Godrej Consumer Products. A warm welcome to Dr. Reena. Joining them, we have Dr. Shilpa Vora, Chief and R&D Officer, Marico Limited. Warm welcome to Dr. Shilpa. We have Punita Kalra, CEO, Research and Innovation, Emami Limited. Warm welcome to Punita. And joining them is Dr. Kriti Soni, Global Head R&D at Dr. Vaidya's RPSG Group. A warm welcome. Mr. Singh, over to you to take over the proceedings.
First, I think I would like to thank everyone to being for this session. I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting session just before the lunch. The challenge all of us are having to how can we hold you guys here engaged fully in this session. And I was asking someone, what is the most important part or most interesting part in any movie? You all, I'm sure, will be watching a lot of movies. What is the most interesting part? Let me give 3 choices to you. Start of the movie, end of the movie, or just before interval. So this is exactly the same time when before you go for a lunch. This is a session which will keep you engaged and fully, immersed in this session for sure. Okay, the topic is very interesting. It's about R&D. How, and what role R&D is playing. Everyone know about R&D, and it varies from various functions. A startup, it might be few people, or a technical expertise what people are bringing on the table. And in a large global organization, just full setup of multiple people, multiple labs and technologies and things like that on that. If you ask someone to define what is R&D all about, I think simple definition that I come across of R&D is reimagining what is possible and delivering it in an impactful way that make impact to life, consumer life I'm talking about, and business. So that's what R&D does in a very simplistic way. However, the role of R&D sometimes is misunderstood, and sometimes it takes a little bit of backseat that we're talking about. It has changed over a period of time. The biggest impact, if you want to see of R&D, last few examples that come across in my mind. The very first is this COVID-19 issue that we had. Typical vaccine development time, which is for years and decades, I think some of the people can really echo with me, was crushed into few weeks by those wonderful minds and making it cost effective. We were not making for ourselves in such a short time, but we were exporting to the world. That is what impact I think R&D has made over there. Second comes in my mind is Apple. A company which talks and thrives only on innovation. New feature every time on Apple phone is one people look forward. I think those are some of the things what R&D brings on the table. And the size of that company is more than $1 trillion. So it's 1/3 of our entire India, GDP. This is what R&D and innovation has brought it over there. And third, I think, which comes in my mind is EV, Tesla, reimagining how the mobility will be. It's not an incremental making my car engine a little bit more efficient, but thinking very differently what kind of energy system I need to provide, what kind of mobility system which is sustainable need to be provided. So I think R&D is just 3-4 examples I'm talking about. There are thousands and thousands of such examples where R&D has really made an impact on that. So business is realizing that R&D is that engine, that heart which pulsating and making business run and playing a very important role going forward on that. To take this conversation further, I have esteemed panelists. I'm really fortunate to have all of them here. They have been decades of experience in R&D. When I'm saying R&D per se, many of them have started R&D from scratch. They have been part of selecting, developing, grooming, and thriving R&D in big organizations. They have seen ups and downs. They have been on the stage where R&D has taken a seat forward sometime and sometime, supported other functions. So I think no one else can give us a better knowledge about R&D and what they're doing and how it can make an impact to the business other than these all panelists. So let me start this conversation with you first, Reena. Just want to take your view about what R&D is bringing on the table. You coming from, you've seen R&D on state-of-art organization. Home care has been your key forte. How you've seen R&D evolving over a period of time and influencing at this point of time larger business decisions?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you everyone for being here, and especially before lunch. Hope we kind of, give you adequate insights, inputs, and also hear from you and from fellow panelists. So answering back our journey of 30 years, how R&D has changed, how R&D has contributed to organizations, especially home care. So 30 years back, as he said, we had the state-of-the-art laboratory. We had scientists who would be doing and developing new technologies. And we kind of sell it to marketing. And if our marketing is kind enough, those products get launched in the market. This was a cycle, maybe 25 years back, 20 years back, when we didn't have Google, when information was guarded. Strictly, everything was extremely secretive. We just had one patent that had to be translated in different languages. And this was how R&D used to function. A technology, a lab, a scientist, and go to market. After Google and after all these changes that happened, consumer has changed. The business models have changed. Market has changed. Competition has changed. We cannot again work in the same way. That you have a technology in a lab and you go and put it out in the market. It's going to bomb. You can't then be a number one. What has changed? Consumer has today become extremely important, extremely choosy. It's very difficult to understand what they want. Now, R&D and successful innovations no more happen in the lab, in the state of the lab. They happen where consumer is using your product. That's where you find out what's lacking, what's the need gap, what is it that you want to differentiate. So one thing that's definitely become core today is understanding consumer. Second, it's not just understanding his need. It's understanding his aspiration, his sensorials that he wants. I may want to give a car perfume in 65 rupees, but that needs to give, because he owns a car, his aspiration is to have the best car and the best smelling car. Doesn't mean that the product is 65 rupees. It's not going to look good. It's going to look extremely good. Coming to the third point, design. So it's consumer delighting him with the beautiful sensorials in the way he opens the pack, in the way the pack is available, where it is available, at the price it's available. And third is design. Because consumer now has very, very evolved sense of aesthetics. He's seeing so many things on Insta, right? To buy one small 100 rupee product, he has 50 options to choose from on Insta. How do you get the most appealing product? So what has changed is definitely consumer. What has changed is the way you give your sensorials. And third is how do you make and look and pack and design your products. So I think along with the state of the lab, R&D, innovation, I think what is key is these three things. And if we are able to take care of these three things, I think we'll have great successful innovation.
Well said, Reena. I think you raise a very important point of consumer becoming much more aware, and consumer is being at the heart of all the work that R&D is doing. I also heard this saying, you can advertise, you can create trials by talking a good advertisement and bringing a good personality over there to talk about the product. But the repeat sale will come when you have understood those fundamentals and core of consumer has gone into your product. So that's a true success what R&D bring on the table. Also, you touched base on R&D was a function which was never visible, hidden somewhere, those guys are doing. But I think the value of R&D is known when you see the product in the marketplace. Now it's a very nice segue for you, Shilpa. I think the difficult part is to understand what is consumer's mind, especially in a food sense.
Yes.
So all of us love food, and we in India especially are too much obsessed talking about food. How do you see food R&D evolving? And, how do you make sure that, the consumer evaluation journey, because the choices that they have, are get reflected into what all development food R&D team is doing, and how you take it differently? Just want to understand that.
Thanks, Swarn, for the question. Thanks to the audience for sort of listening in at this point. Foods, as you rightly said, it's a question we've always sort of taught in school, right? You live to eat or you eat to live. And foods R&D is not different than any other sort of R&D field, whether it's pharma, whether it's personal care, because the rules of R&D don't change with product format. I think when it comes to food, if you ask me what is uniquely different, your chassis can be the same. So let's say if you're selling a product format, the format can be the same, the raw materials can be the same globally, right? What starts becoming interesting and nuanced is the entire flavor profile. All of us on the stage or in the audience, we represent different parts of India and the world. I can tell you no two people sitting next to each other might like the same flavor of food often. So when it comes to consumer understanding, and I completely agree, R&D starts with understanding the consumer pain point, or what is it that the consumer is looking for. And to me, therefore, the job of R&D is to first understand that pain point, look for a solution that works for the consumer. It could be quality of the product, it could be safety of the product, it's simple thing, packaged food versus sort of loose food. But to me, what brings the product home is, and repeat purchase, as you just said, is really the flavor. And how is it that we really start understanding consumer nuances? So there's a lot of consumer inciting work that happens by the R&D teams very, very regularly. A lot of inciting happens through tasting, a lot of inciting happens through market visits, bringing those products in as R&D and saying, what is it about it that makes it unique or different? Because if all products taste the same, consumer is not going to buy it, right? So from a marketing lens, the question R&D always asks is, what is it that my product will stand for? What is so differentiated about my product compared to my competition product? And that's where really role of R&D starts getting more and more nuanced, because that is a question you need to start addressing. And like I said, every brand stands for something different. So when you talk to consumers, keep that in mind.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think very good point. You're saying keeping brand in the center and consumer also in the heart of everything. Punita, coming to you. You comes with a few decades of experience working in R&D from pharma to personal care. You've seen the journey. And just, I think for you, I want to understand, things have changed over a period of time, and everyone should change, and R&D function also has to change. But what has remained constant in R&D, that the chasing that bullseye is very, very important, is relevant today. It was relevant earlier and will be relevant in the future as well. And what else is coming as a flexibility in that space? And also, if you can just add on the top of it, because as Reena mentioned, R&D was much more product focused, consumer focused. Has it changed much more business focused? As a business force function, the terminology has become much more from food, product, ingredient to ROI, agility, P&L, and all those things as well in, when we're talking about R&D. It's just these 2 points here.
So thank you so much, Swarn, and good afternoon, everybody. I would like to just kind of answer this in 2 parts. The first part being is, what has been constant from the pharmaceutical R&Ds and the personal care R&Ds, if I may please call. Science is constant. There is no negotiation that is allowed on science. Science-driven formulations, if you're talking in pharmaceutical, it's all about drug modeling, it has to work. That is something that there is no compromises. And even in the personal care over the last 15 odd years, you can see the efforts are more in terms of driving perception has changed to now delivering the true efficacy. So there is an evolution that has happened, but science is non-negotiably there. The second important vertical, given the kind of evolvement of regulation in our country, we are becoming a lot of global savvy even on our regulations. Safety and toxicology is of paramount importance. Gone are those days that you have to just kind of make the product and बाद में consumer बताएगा चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है. So it's about ensuring the consumer safety is at the core of everything that you design and deliver. Compliances on standards of performance and efficacy are getting stronger as we speak. And of course, the biggest one, which was not heard enough was consumer centricity. And I would want to see that there's a constancy. When you talk about pharmaceutical industry R&D, it is about patient centricity. You have to keep the focus on the patient, uska kya disease conditions hai, what are the things that were inflicting, and if not treated, what will it get magnified into? And in personal care industry, which is now home ground, it is all about, what is it that they want and what will drive that perception of delivery. And of course, R&D, and I think I'll just borrow that point that Reena mentioned, R&D is a function that thrives on collaboration. R&D cannot be just one support function that will do, something which is called as make the product and go. They are the ones which, and rightfully the topic over here is about, they are the ones who own the place in the table, because they will be part of your strategic thinking to try and see that you understand kyun chahiye, why do you need to make what you have to make, rather than just move into, what you need to make. To capture the second part of your question, what has changed, digital disruption is here for everybody to live and experience. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't know of what an artificial intelligence is. We are just kind of overwhelmed with all that it can do. So one of the bigger changes that are happening both in pharmaceutical industry and in the personal care or home and personal care industry, if I may please extend, is the way artificial intelligence is being used. In the pharmaceutical industry, I know and I hear about drug modeling is now being kind of, aided with artificial intelligence tools that tries and maps the receptor, ताकि आपका molecules जो बनेगा, they will be now falling in a class of precise medicine, so that you reduce the side effects, have more potencies happening. Genomics has found its very strong presence even in the pharmaceutical industry. But you come into the personal care industry, the artificial intelligence has got a completely different take. We are responding to that mega shift by creating formulations that are going to be aided by digital twins, which I mean is, one of the programs that we also internally led at Emami was about, can I have a predictor tool that says कि मैं कितना UVA block, UVB block डालूं, and what could be the potential end value of sunscreens? Something that we had to do a trial and error, say 10 years ago. So these tools are enabling. There is a huge amount of AI-enabled formulation recipe systems coming in place. And I think the last and the biggest change that is happening is consumer empowerment. In the pharmaceutical industry, with the help of advent of digital apps, you are placing the power with the consumer to track the health improvement or the changes that are happening. In the personal care industry, because of the AR and the VR, the diagnostic tools and the beauty apps, consumers are going to become their self-dermatologists and self-clinicians to see product काम कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है. So you are now shifting the entire mindset, from an R&D that will be a recipient of a product brief to an R&D that will drive the strategy, that will ensure the growth of the organization is fueled, and therefore the innovation happens. I frankly feel, R&D should not be called R&D anymore. It should be a function called as an innovation function.
Absolutely.
Because that is the name of the game,
Yeah. And I think it's beyond that. Even R&D is not a function per se. I'm saying R&D mindset in all the function is a different approach per se. Thinking differently, and in all the functions is. And I think also you touch base on AI. I just heard about that Einstein AI was some 150 or 160, and ChatGPT is going to be 150. So ChatGPT 4 they're talking about is going to. I think that way is evolving, and intellectual work also coming to AI. This is going to evolve, completely differently on this space. Kirti, to you, your space has been always R&D, is a healthcare space, it's always with white coat and, talking about formulation and all those details. How do you see in this domain of, healthcare space, R&D evolving from being traditional, very much, key ingredient, benefit-based things, which is impacting your health, versus nowadays, new gen consumer, their asks are very different. A lot of them are self-dermatologists, as we're talking about. Yeah. So how do you see R&D evolving in that space of healthcare?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Swarn, for that question. And thank you to all my co-panelists and CMPL for bringing such a vast experience on the stage, and CMPL especially for giving R&D again a seat on the table. Coming back to the question about how healthcare has been evolving in terms of, the R&D setup. Over the years, if you see that, being exposed to the pharmaceutical side, the cosmetic side, as well as the Ayurvedic aspect of formulations, what I've seen is that the paramount thing is how you are addressing the unmet need for the customer. Because, see, there are a lot of products in the market, and it's always very, very difficult for the consumer to decide what to go for. Whether I should go for a herbal supplement, or there is a fad ingredient out in the market, you can try that, or there is a claim substantiation-backed ingredient that has come up. For example, ashwagandha, we have all heard. We have all heard about the number of clinical trials that we have as on date on curcumin and whatnot. So many molecules out there which have been standardized, called phytopharmaceuticals, and then brought into the healthcare space with a standard dosage. So we spoke about, my co-panelists spoke about the AI aspect of it. So there is a lot of debate regarding what dose to go for. For years in the pharmaceutical space, we are talking about bioavailability, how this particular ingredient is going to impact us. When we were talking about the pharmaceutical side of it, we were saying that, out of the 500 mg of paracetamol, only 50% is getting bioabsorbed in the body because of the first pass metabolism or other aspects that how, it is getting distributed into the body. But later on, a lot of technologies are already in place where we can enhance the bioavailability of these molecules. And everybody is aware that, you mix piperine with anything, the bioavailability enhances. Even if, somebody who's not from the healthcare range also knows that biopiperine is a compound that you add with anything, it will enhance the bioavailability. But the problem is that, these ingredients have been popularized, but very less conversation happens about the mechanism of these ingredients. Most of the herbal ingredients act by multiple pathways. So like we've been talking about how pharmacodynamics and kinetics work, it is very important to understand that at molecular level, how the pharma docking is happening. Each of the herbal compound that we speak about, be it a cosmeceutical ingredient, be it a herbal entity or a pharmaceutical ingredient, interacts with the receptor-based modeling. So how that interaction is happening, how is the protein binding happening, what is the half-life of the compound, all of that actually determines how the drug will biodispose in the body. And when I say drug, it means any compound. So, that knowledge comes from pharma. When we design a product, we always think that, what kind of dosage you should give, whether 1 tablet a day is sufficient, whether, whether 2 tablets are needed, because that depends on how the ingredient is getting bioabsorbed in the body or how is the dynamics working. So, I think the main aspect around the pharmaceutical or the herbal side of the supplements is about how they are behaving in the body and how much dosage you need to give. At the same time, the product needs to be safe because that dose needs to be safe. Today, we are seeing combinations of n number of ingredients coming into the product without even laying stress on how they're interacting. So drug interactions are a major aspect of it, which we, of course, take into consideration while making the product. Fortunately, today we have models like in silico models or even,
But
docking
Kirti,
models.
I really enjoyed this coming R&D true sense, talking about all formulation details. I think you come in absolutely right flow, which is setting up a very much stage, why R&D is important. It's very difficult to sometimes understand. You have to nail down from business point of view. We 3-4 are a little spoiled from the business side. I think you had brought the real true R&D formulation to the discussion.
So I had to bring some more science.
No, absolutely. Now we understand why R&D is where it is. So, but absolutely, I think it's important to bring out what unique thing that R&D brings.
Yes.
Detailed depth of science and formulation and combination that you're talking about has been very essential. I'm switching a gear, if you allow me from here. Is once you know this is an important function, what it brings on the table is also known. I think things need to be done at both ends. One, business need to view R&D a little differently, as well as R&D individuals also need to raise their game to be able to live up to the occasion that been asked to give a seat on the decision table. Coming to you, Reena, once again, I think, what do you think, what are some of the things that business need to do at this point, in business environment need to do at this point of time? I'm talking about cross-functional business environment, or business not just thinking about pure those numbers of top line and bottom line, but what goes in between, what deliver those numbers, how it can be reinforced a little differently. So what have been your experience? What are some of the tricks of the trade which can help business to realize that importance and allow them to play a bigger role?
Yeah, I think it's same, right? You're making the products, or the business exists for consumer, right? And every function should prioritize the consumer. The R&D may bring a differentiation in terms of product. The PSO, logistics, supply chain, brings the pricing and commercials. Marketing communicates it right. So I think all functions need to just have one filter. What is my right to win with this product? And what am I offering to the consumer which others are not? If you have a differentiated product, you have a right to win. If you're not differentiated, you have no right to win, and there is no reason for that product or us to work on it. So I think the entire organization, everyone should just ask one question: my right to win, and what's my differentiation?
Absolutely, I think, and who bring the right to win is also need to be brought in the center stage. Shilpa, coming to you, you have seen global R&Ds all across, and you played decades on all those things. So is it different, or there is anything good which is happening outside that we need to bring it in India in terms of R&D collaborating with rest of the organization, or rest of the organization viewing R&D a little differently? Some of the learnings, if you have in that space, yeah.
Sure. So I think, as it was said earlier, right, science doesn't change, but mindset, I think, becomes important in R&D. The big one, when R&D speaks about R&D, right, we are experts in our own field and domain. We think we know everything. And we don't want to accept if I don't know, the answer doesn't exist. I think if you think about a global mindset, to me in R&D is about being humble about our knowledge. And say there are many instances where I don't know, that there are experts out there who know more than me, and how am I going to bring in that expertise? To me, that is probably one of the biggest, when I look at global R&D versus local R&D, I see that a potential gap that, also remember, we've been brought up in an extremely competitive environment. All of our upbringing has been super competitive. How can I admit I don't know? And to me, that is where R&D, if you're not humble about your knowledge, if you are saying, I don't know, let me go get help, let me find the right expert to help solve this problem. I think that is probably the biggest mindset shift that will happen as a difference between global and local. And to the point you raised earlier, especially when you look at MNCs, and you look at, if you go from startup to small companies to large companies to MNCs, the biggest differentiator eventually becomes collaboration. Collaboration within function and collaboration across functions. But it's all about a mindset. Even that collaboration starts with a humble mindset to say, for us to succeed in the marketplace, we need to get into it together. And R&D is at the center of it. Remember, if there's no product, there's nothing to sell. There's nothing to make, there's nothing to sell.
Absolutely, I think very rightly said. I think it's a mindset than anything else. I think that we need to make sure that we become a bit humble, and I think quest for knowledge is continuous from there. Punita, coming to you on the next question. See what business look for to think top line and bottom line for sure. So top line, when you're talking about how can you premiumize, how can you justify that value I'm charging, the price I'm charging is right. Second is, how can I deliver that value for me at lowest cost? So if this is a struggle we have where people want premiumized benefit, they really pay for it, and business want delivered to low cost. How do you think this swing R&D can play both the extreme? When business wants something, consumer wants something else, how R&D can raise up to the occasion to deliver that? What have you experienced into this space?
So you've just echoed something that we all live by and try grappling with 24/7 and 365 days, right? So I think, honestly speaking, the mindset has to completely change. And I completely agree with what Shilpa just said, times are such, the challenge is not within anymore. The challenge is from the outside. And unless and until R&D changes its mindset from its traditional, conventional footprint of, product banana hai, brief denge aap, and then we are going to go through the testing. Unless that changes into becoming a more preemptive R&D, There's so much of information today available in the social listening capacity that you've got to start keeping tab onto what are the in fact, the trends ke pehle, you start getting now insights, and much before the insights, you now have agencies who are giving you forecasts or foresights as they are called. So I think the R&D has to start becoming a lot more adaptive and agile. For me, these two are the two necessary evils as that we have to do. And I think if I were to just summarize two mantras, which I also speak to about people in my team, is you have to start innovating for tomorrow, while not compromising your ability to execute today. And I would like to elaborate what I mean by that is if you have to start innovating for tomorrow, you have to necessarily start keeping tab of what are the emerging technologies. How are the consumers of tomorrow going to change? What are their potential changes in the habits and attitudes? What are their asks? And as you've rightly hinted, premiumization in this country, 7 years ago, nobody bothered about it. It was all about give me value. Right? And consumers wanted the most effective at the cheapest cost. And there are now newer emerging consumer segment who's not, having a challenge in premiumizing, looking at those offerings, provided you're delivering that value. So you have to start designing to value rather than just doing a bottom of pyramid game or just doing the top end game. The second important thing is the R&D has to stop just looking at what has been asked and start doing a little deeper understanding of ethnography, where so much amount of efforts have been put down to start putting consumers at the center, something that all of us have said. If consumer is the king and consumer is the ultimate authority whom which you have to deliver, you have to start listening to them through various forums. And again, AI, the buzzword, starts coming handy. It tries to synthesize a lot of information for you beforehand. And I think if you have to execute for tomorrow, deliver for today, the best thing it does is it makes your R&D stay grounded. As Shilpa said, many times a lot of eccentricity in the scientist can make us feel that we are best in the world, and there is nobody who is close to us. So if you stay grounded, you are always going to be focusing your energies in solving the real problem of the consumer. And that is where I would want to say we have to change our approach from being product-centric R&D to a problem-centric R&D. We are here in the business because we have to solve some problem for the consumer, because the real needs of the consumers are not about the next hair fall shampoo or the next brightening cream. Their problems are far beyond the categories that businesses have created, And the second mantra that I would want to speak, and many of my team members would relate with it, is there's a buzzword that I use in office a lot, which is business scientist, which basically I mean is that you have to think like a scientist and you have to act like a startup, borrowing from the earlier session. The reason I say this is when you think like a scientist, the concitousness, the rigor about scientific principles is ensured. You are not going to compromise on the technical brilliance. You're not going to compromise on the delivery efficiencies, on the compliances and regulatories and so on and so forth. But when you start thinking like a startup, the agility is unmatched. The ability to become bolder and bigger, unmatched. Look at the kind of D2C brands today that are there in our country, right? Sure. And your ability to soak in new knowledge and translate that into the product is a caliber that R&D, the fraternity needs to keep acquiring, and that's where we can learn from outside.
I think it's a very, very interesting point, but I'm conscious of time. But thanks for, I think, bringing it out very clearly. Yes, you have to think about, what you can execute. You cannot do blue sky R&D for years and decades. You have to have end date in mind, because business run in that way. And what else will give a R&D professional satisfaction by seeing what he started in the lab comes in the market, shelf and consumer are using it for sure. I just, Kriti, change gear again for coming to you. Is, R&D, when we are talking about, and we all come from large established R&D setups. But R&D as a concept is less known in startups. And it's just such a foundational or fundamental thing. If you don't have product right, don't have consumer understanding, all those things, you cannot have a long-term success. What do you think? a startup has its own challenges. They don't want one more challenge having R&D on the top of it. But I say R&D is not a challenge, but it's a starting point. What do you think, what startups should do so that they seed in this thought of R&D mindset and R&D as a function, dedicated function, the starting itself, so they don't struggle later on, or they don't have initial run, but struggle later. So what do you think, what message and what way startup can build in R&D for very beginning?
Yeah, so again, a very valid question. So worked in both, a multinational company who was doing a lot of R&D over years and delivered a product, and worked in a startup also. But fortunately, I've worked with startups who lay a lot of stress on R&D focused approach. Reason being, like we said, that customer is the center point. Retention doesn't happen if the product isn't good. So a customer will not come back to you if the problem is not getting solved. So like we were talking about the customer-centric approach, I still remember an instance when we were talking about how we can help people lose weight, which is a major problem in India today. But different people have different reasons to it. So one day I still remember I was sitting with the team and I said that, there are different reasons why people gain weight. You have to address that first. It might be hypothyroidism. It might be something else. There are so many n number of reasons. So you have to go to the root cause analysis, and then you categorize them into high, moderate, and low, moderate, and high. So like that, you can categorize people based on BMI or etc. So there are so n number of categorizations and techniques that you can develop to basically premiumize or customize the product for a customer. And then only you will be able to solve a problem. So again, that scientific approach is needed while keeping something like an AOV of a product also in mind. Because there are so many, like when you curate a kitty of products, and there are like 5-6 products for a problem, the customer also gets confused which one to go with. So you have to make it simplified for the customer to understand that, it might be a simple tech questionnaire where you can answer that, okay, this is my problem. Now this is a customized solution that I can go for. So similarly, when you are claiming something, it is very, very important that you standardize or substantiate it with a lot of claim. Sometimes, startups don't have the funding to back it up with a full-fledged clinical data. So they go with the published data and whatever is available in the public domain. And of course, there are so many patented and clinically tested actives available out in the market. But if at all you're not able to do it, fortunately, with in silico clinical trial techniques, you can actually model the patient data of 1,000 people and see whether your composition that you have designed is working for that cohort. So that is a very, very important tool. Again, integrating your AI knowledge and your scientific knowledge, getting data from 1,000 people, which is very, very expensive when you go to an actual clinical trial, but still getting a substantiated claim. And at least I would say an indicative claim that, okay, for these kind of people with this much kind of an HbA1c, this particular composition having good mar, Karela or Methi, etc. will work at least for 70% people over this period of time. So that is actually the power of technology that the R&D is bringing in for the startups or for even for MNCs to reduce the time of development and deliver a safe and efficacious product for the masses.
Absolutely, I think this is a very good point that you said. So this can be a talking point when you're pitching, any startup pitching to contract manufacturer pitching to anyone else, saying that I have a full-fledged R&D setup, not only gives an impression about how agile mindset these guys are having, also they are fit for future. So they are one who was thinking from very beginning. So it can be a big pitching story for you guys as well. Now, Reena, coming to you, that we heard from industry point of view, startup point of view, what ecosystem need to do. But I think equally, R&D professionals also need to raise the game. They also need to perform at a different level and different capabilities per se. So what do you think, what are some of the things what R&D professionals need to do, leveraging academia, institutions, where and a lot of R&D, private and public sector labs are there, a lot of publications are there, industry partners are there. So what do you think that R&D professionals need to do to raise up to that level here of the demand of today that is expected from R&D?
So I think first getting the mindset of the R&D professional, right? So I think we need to increasingly encourage our young scientists to be really very ambitious in terms of what they want to deliver to the world. Ambitions not just in terms of corporate ladder, but ambition in terms of what value do I want to bring here. And to the organization and collaborations that you meant. So internal was scientists and external was the whole industry, academia that we work with. So academia definitely has all the answers that we want, right? That's what we all kept saying, that academia has in-depth. We tend to be a little superficial because we focus on consumer and business also. So how do we kind of, cross-pollinate learnings that academia has to the industry? How do we value, respect what they have on table, and how they in turn can respect what industry needs are, what demands are, and what timelines need to be met? So if both industry and academia can respect each other's requirements and strengths that they offer, I think there is a lot that we can do together.
Sure. I think I'm conscious of time, so I'm looking for a precise answer now. Shilpa, to you. So 3 things from R&D professional that they, if they need to reach to the occasion that we're talking about. 3 V, I say, voice, value, and visibility. So I'll take it to you, value. So how can R&D speak more the business language? What they need to do to come up to the pace with the business?
Fine. I think Punita answered it earlier. To me, having that, business mindset. I think most of us work in companies where while we are scientists, we need to on day one understand what is the commercial implication of what we are developing. Yes, the burden is to be consumer first, but it is also to be business first. And therefore, every idea, even if it's not briefed, like a lot of us come up proactively as scientists with sort of product solutions or packaging solutions. But at the heart of every sort of thought is what's the commercial viability of what we are coming up with. So in that sense, you cannot sort of divorce yourself from the value equation of your innovation.
Sure, thank you. You touched base, Punita, a point on R&D should not be called R&D, should be called as an innovation function. So what do you think if you'll take a larger, broader spectrum of innovation, where R&D is part of that, will it be better for R&D professionals, and what they need to do to move from R&D to an innovation mindset?
So I think first things first is, this entire mindset shift would enable organization to tap into the ability of R&D to start conceptualizing. So I would actually propose that, when an R&D has got an early involvement into the business, they can actually build on to the concept of the promise. You could also bake in the ability and what is the kind of feasibility to be able to bring in that innovation. They could enhance the promise, because of the early involvement. So to my mind, when you're looking at an innovation mindset, and not just the R&D mindset, it is all about creating bigger, bolder innovation together as a collaboration, because nothing that is conceptualized at a boardroom can be enacted only if we start operating in silos. So it's about co-ownership, developing together, enhancing the scope, but the fundamental there is still keeping the consumer centricity at the heart of everything we do. We understand what are the unmet need gaps, what are the technology limitations, and then come forward for delivering a solution. So if you move from a traditional R&D mindset, which is brief-driven, where somebody has asked me, ye bana ke dijiye, to now try and look at consumer at the center and try and say, what is it that I need to deliver to the consumer, and therefore can I enhance the promise that the marketer came to me? I think that will be a true definition of, the mindset shift.
Sure. 2 V are cover, voice and value. Third, Kriti, to you, visibility. What should R&D do, R&D professionals should do at this point in time, or your advice to them, to be much more visible among these cross-functional partners? What you have, like you have marketing, finance, and all those things, they typically take a front seat on that. So what R&D you should do to be much more visible and having equal stake on that?
So again, I'll take a very simple example that we are doing on a regular basis. Once a product is launched, we, as R&D people, we sit in the feedback calls. So when you actually talk to the consumer and understand what is still an unmet need, you get a lot of insight into what they are facing and what are the future challenges that are going to come. So as an R&D person, you're quickly able to make out that, this particular product might be something that is needed as an extension or an innovation, which can be added to my present product line. So visibility in terms of how a product can be made into a, I would say, a cost-friendly solution, which is viable in terms of its COGS, CM, and of course, now today you are listing products on e-com, D2C websites, so the margins should work according to that. That is something that goes into the designing, and of course it comes with a lot of collaboration between the marketing and the R&D team while you are designing a product, giving the claims and determining the cost of the product. then eventually, when I have made a product, but it is not a product which is very, very, I would say, good for logs or supply chain. So it doesn't make sense for me to make a super good product but doesn't have an adequate shelf life or can't be transported from one city to another in a particular time frame. So I would say again, a lot of collaboration between the cross-functional teams right at the stage of designing and deciding what has to be launched is very, very important. And that is something I think as a lot of startups are doing today, because that there are, I would say, smaller teams, they sit together, they brainstorm, and they come up with a very creative solution, which is compatible for all the streams, all the departments, and then you come out with a, a blockbuster product. That is what contributes to the success of
Absolutely, I think understanding each other functions, requirement, and their pain areas, and contributing toward them. So fantastic discussion we had. I think I can't think any better, way of giving R&D full holistic view to you guys. Just one last thing I want to say, then I'll open to you to ask any question. I heard long back, PNG, I think ex-CEO has mentioned this long back I'm talking about. But it's talking about if you want your top line of business success for a quarter, run the promotion. Any schemes and all those things, one free and all those you can do if you want to get the sale for a quarter. If you want a sale and business for a 1 year, you should do advertisement. Run TV ad and you'll get the sale for 1 year. If you want years of sale and growth, you invest on your R&D. If the product is fantastic, packs are fantastic, they will get repeated sale for years. It requires mindset and right investment, and then it will take to the sky limit on that. Thank you so much for being fantastic audience. But happy to hear any question, any build, any comment you have. Please.
We have room for one question actually.
If you can just allow 1-2 minutes, I think will be people. If there are more people, I'm fine. Otherwise, we can close it.
Question for, I think, Dr. Kit Soni. You were discussing regarding the bioavailability and the molecule availability to a human body for giving a particular dosage of a particular drug. How much it is important is the weight of a patient for that bioavailability and the dosage?
So yeah, it is certainly very, very, very related to the body weight. Usually we take 70 kg and do all the calculations according to it, if you go to the actual pharmacodynamics of it and the kinetics of it. But, if it is a child, like usually you might have seen that most of the allopathic medicines do come up with a dosage recommendation for different age groups. But the usual calculation happens around the 70 kg body weight. When you go to the actual amounts that go into the body, it definitely varies for different body weights and of course the genetics of a person. So a lot of detailing is there, and that is why some people get efficacy faster, whereas some take some time to show the similar impact. So that is why most of the herbal supplements say that at least you take it for 3 months. Because that is the minimum time frame for the body to adjust to a particular molecule and then have an efficacy.
Sure, good. Thank you.
I understand 70 kg is the normal weight, but
sir, I request, I think
for the medicine,
some time.
very small.
We can connect outside.
For a small children of 10 years or 15 years, when the Ayurvedic medicines are designed, what weight you consider?
This gentleman.
All right, I'll answer the question outside, but I'll take it.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Hi, my name is Mayank and I make better chewing gums. My question is to Dr. Shilpa. Like you mentioned, it's very difficult to please every tongue and every taste bud with a particular flavor.
Yes.
There's a certain problem with food products, particularly with startups, that if a food product is ordered, customers may love it or customers may absolutely hate it. Now, what's your magic ratio that, okay, if 80 people are liking it and 20 are not, you continue with the product? What's that magic number? Because I think with larger companies, you don't have to be answerable. People have bought it.
No, trust me, you are answerable no matter what size of company you are.
I mean, here at least people call directly on the direct line or on the email and expect an answer.
Fair.
Yeah.
I look at it this way, it really comes down to the specific target audience you're speaking to. Right? I will never be able to satisfy the taste of every consumer who comes my way. And these are assumptions you make in your business case. Right? We said you have to be also business first in R&D. If 80 out of 100 people liked it, the question you have to ask yourself is, does that mean I will still make enough revenue that I have set out to make. And I'm okay not to have those 20 people experience my product. So I think it really comes from there, but a lot of it starts with the definition of your target audience. Because there will be there will never be 100% acceptance. Let me be upfront on that. And the magic number somewhere is, I think to the point you said, it's 75, 80. It kind of depends on the business case. But I look at it this way, on food, a lot of it is very, very personal. Right? So I can tell you as an R&D person, I don't decide what is right or wrong. I let the consumer speak. So it's the first filter. Keep that in mind.
Just want to build on what Shilpa said. Actually, you have to decide what your strategy is. Exactly. You want to be differentiated and you want to be mass. If you want to be mass, you cannot experiment as Shilpa is talking about. Then you play plain vanilla so that it works and lowest cost. If you want to be differentiated, I think you want to be stand out, clutter breaking and all those things, you should have ability to accept some of those, aberration as well and polarization, because Korean flavor everyone knows is now talk of the town. It was not there earlier. I know some of the dairy flavors which works on chips. No one has ever thought of Esco will become such a big flavor, very different flavor. So I think if you want to be differentiated, want to stand out on that I think you should vouch some of the differences. In R&D, sometimes we love those differences. It's able to differentiate me.
All the best.
Anyone else? Last question? Okay, please, sir.
My question is to Shilpa ma'am. See, madam, when you develop the product, do you consider the health of the customer? Because, for example, I give, because earlier this product was developed like all soft drinks. Soft drinks were developed by the R&D professional only. That was the actually huge market earlier it was there. But nowadays that was considered as a junk product. Okay. So do the R&D professional should consider the health of the consumer while developing the product, or do they only the focus on the business?
Right. So to me, it comes down to what your brand stands for. Right? If your brand stands for a health-forward benefit, then obviously the health of the individual becomes important. But for most FMCG companies, we usually talk to a normal, regular consumer. But there are brands within companies that stand for health, then obviously their guardrails are going to be health forward. But remember, not everybody, every consumer, not all of us are unhealthy. And I look at it, these are choices that brands stand for.
Good. Any more, or should we close the session? Thank you so much. Really appreciate for extending time for us. Thank you. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause to our incredible panel for spotlighting the role, in fact, of R&D in powering true innovation. So can we have a huge round of applause for them, please? Come on, give it up. We have a small token of appreciation for each of you, requesting Hazel Menezes from CMPL team to come on stage and do the honors. Firstly, to our moderator, Swarn Singh. Thank you so much, sir, for moderating the session. And I'm awaiting the applause, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. Dr. Reena. Thank you. Dr. Shilpa. Punita. And Dr. Kriti. Let's mark this moment with a group photograph. Can we have the panelists come ahead quickly for a group photograph?